veterinary nurses are the perfect people to become behaviorists because we're so integrated in terms of body and soul. So I think we've got a huge skill set that we can bring and integrate the whole thing. And, when you're ready to start your business, go for it. Once you've got those qualifications under your belt and you know what your niche market is and where you're aiming for, and whether it's going to be part of practice or whether it's going to be something you do independently, and whether it's going to be training, whether it's going to be behavior. So figure out what you want to do first and then find a way to make it happen. And being a vet nurse will make it all the more fabulous.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another super special VN Happy Hour. I'm VN Times editor Rachel Boswell. Now, Mr. James Westgate is off on his honeymoon this month, so I have Jack Pye, RVN, BVNA Council member, and at this point, Happy Hour Pro, stepping in to co-host with me.
Hi everyone, I'm delighted to be here to help with this evening's Happy Hour. Tonight we'll be focusing on behaviour, how as vet nurses we can support owners of animals with behavioural issues, as well as the importance of using Tier 3 methods in practice.
That's right. So in our main interview this evening, I'll be chatting with Linda Ryan. Linda is an RVN who has been nursing since 2000 and is a veterinary technician specialist in oncology and behaviour and certificated clinical animal behaviourist. Linda is a passionate patient advocate and aims to be welfare-centred across all areas of her work with animals, and she runs Inspiring Pet Teaching, a clinical animal behaviour referral service in the New Forest.
Straight after that, Linda will be joining our other guests for our panel discussion. You've sent loads of questions in, so we'll try and get through them all. And I know they are looking forward to sharing their thoughts and opinions with you all, and I certainly will probably learn a thing or two.
Yep, so joining Linda on the panel, we have Zoe Blake, who runs her own pet nurse at home business, The Friendly Pet Nurse. She holds the ISFM Feline Friendly Nursing and Advanced Behaviour Certificates and is coming towards the end of her Compass Applied Feline Behaviour Management Diploma. Zoe also set up the Respect the Lead campaign in 2018, which aims to educate dog owners on good dog lead etiquette, and the campaign went viral, reaching all four corners of the globe.
And then we also have Ellie Bowden. Ellie studied the Advanced Diploma in Canine Behaviour Management and is currently completing her Masters in Clinical Animal Behaviour at the University of Edinburgh, after which she hopes to start her PhD. Wow. And Ellie works in first opinion practice alongside running her own behaviour business, The Behaviour Nurse, on Instagram and other social media platforms. She is a provisional member of the Association of Pet Behaviour Counsellors and hopes to achieve full membership by the close of this year. So we've got so much to cover, so let's get cracking. So over to you, Rachel, with the first interview.
Thank you so much, Jack, and welcome, Linda.
Hello.
Hi, Linda.
Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. Thank you for joining us. Our delegates this evening have sent in so many questions, so shall we just jump right in?
I'm happy to if you are.
Yeah, let's do it. So, have you always had an interest in behaviour? Where did it all begin?
Oh my gosh, yes. And it began with my two wayward collies who were misunderstood by me. And they taught me a lot. And I started dabbling in training and all of the cats I've ever known and loved in my life. But it really took off when I worked at Edinburgh University as the specialist oncology nurse. And very, very quickly discovered that if we did not look at behaviour and put it as equal as clinical health, no matter how special we were at treating the cancer, we were going to lose these patients from the protocol because they were telling their owners they did not want to be there. They were backing out. They were using aggressive behaviors. They were, really, really unhappy in the clinic when I took it over. And so we very quickly thought, gosh, we need to make better patient experiences so that we have happier animals in the clinic. And that was a huge learning journey for me, who wanted to be the best clinical nurse I could ever be and had never learned a thing about behavior. So really it was integrating that hobby that I'd started learning about with real life patients long before there was ever such a thing as cooperative care or fear-free or anything. That didn't exist in those days. We were just doing our best to have patients who were as mentally well looked after and emotionally well looked after as they were physically and clinically. So that's where it all began. And look what happened.
Look at you now. Wow. So did you face any kind of pushback when you first broached this as an area you wanted to focus on in practice?
No, because I think it wasn't a thing. So I think now we have a lot of people struggling where they're maybe doing the fear-free certification or the low stress handling certification or various other qualifications and going back to practice and saying, I want to do this. And it's a thing. And people may have not heard of it, or they may have heard of it. But when we were sort of starting, we were just trying to have our patients be as emotionally comfortable as they could be. And so we were finding our way. And we could see, as Susan Friedman always says, how do you know if it's working? Well, because it works. And so we were seeing patients who were doing better, who were pulling on their leads to come in, cats who were relaxed in the clinic. And so we didn't really have any pushback because we were sort of forging a thing, if you like. And now it's a thing. And sometimes it's very well received and sometimes it's not. For me personally, I find it very straightforward because usually I'm the one that somebody comes to and says, can you come to my practice and talk to everybody? So I'm being invited. And that's a great way to try and educate people and build it from the bottom up. And so I think sometimes we're resistant to things we don't know and understand. But these concepts of low stress handling, patient-friendly practice, they're catching fire, and everybody is hoping and trying to be on the front foot with it these days. And so, it's fantastic.
Oh, that's so good to hear. That's great.
Yeah.
So what kind of CPD or education on behaviour topics is available at the moment? And would you say that's improved over the years?
Yeah, definitely. Again, when I started, I remember being such a keen bean and there was really nothing available. There was a lot of old school, let's be polite, let's call it rubbish, based on very old-fashioned ideas, very harmful ideas. Then it had been based on science from like 30 years ago, which was then obsolete. And now, of course, we would consider it abuse. But back then, that was all there was. Whereas nowadays, there are some really great accredited courses. So there is now a career pathway for people who want to become behaviorists or specialize in behavior or just do more and integrate it into practice. So whether you want to qualify at level 6, which is the minimum standard for behaviorist, or whether you want to just brush up on your skills and learn more, there's a ton out there. And I would say, make sure you know who your speaker is. Look for somebody who is appropriately qualified, not just somebody who's got a passion or who's bringing those old-fashioned ideas with them. You want to look for CCABs, ABTC accredited clinical animal behaviorists, veterinary behaviorists, people who are appropriately qualified to do the teaching. And there's so much out there now. And at the moment, of course, with the pandemic, everything going online, everything is so much more accessible. So yeah, there's lots, which is great.
Oh, that's good to hear. So plenty out there and something for everyone.
Yeah, and the field is moving forward all the time, which is great because there's now, there's a lot of study into the field as well, whereas before it was kind of grandmother's advice handed down. So, there's new research coming out and that's being built into all of the education, whether it's CPD or qualification. So it's fast moving, which is brilliant.
That's good, yes. So this delegate asked, I have an interest in companion animal behaviour. How should I develop this further?
Ooh. Well, depends where you want to go with it. So, there are those who simply want CPD, so to just be better, to know more, to integrate it more. And there are those who want to go on and qualify. And there are those like me who didn't know that I wanted to qualify until I kind of was like 3/4 of the way down the road and then went, oh, I need to keep going now. So if you want to become a qualified behaviorist, I suggest the best place to go is ASAB, the Association of Animal Behavior. And there's actually a career pathway all laid out there. So if you want to be a behaviorist, you need to have a minimum of level 6 in the topic. So a degree in behavior and welfare or behavior related studies. There's loads of CPD out there, which is really fantastic as well. So Fear-Free, for example, we all use the term colloquially, but it's actually a brand, it's actually a company, and I work a lot with them, full disclosure. They do fantastic CPD courses, which you can do little bite size and integrate. I run the BSAVA Veterinary Nurse Merit Award, which is a 9-month course. So that's a lot more in depth, which is fantastic. There's ISFM and International Cat Care. They run the wonderful, well, Zoe has done that course, which again, I'm very heavily involved with, but also little bite-sized bits. So really, it depends where you want to go. Do you want to just brush up? Do you want to know more? Do you want to dip your toe? Or do you want to go all the way? And so, look at ASAB and look at the high quality CPD as well. So BSAVA is always good. ISFM is always good. Fear-Free, they're always great places to go. Karen Pryor Academy as well.
Wonderful, that's great. And if you keep an eye on the chat boxes, we have links to all of these, so we'll share them with you as we.
Thank you. Thank you for typing faster than my brain can work. I appreciate that.
So I would love to start my own business as a behaviourist. Any tips on how I can get started, such as qualifications needed, and how my vet nursing skill set will help with this?
That's a really great question. And again, if you're going to call yourself a behaviorist, at the moment, the industry is unregulated. And so, you know, my dog Evie can call herself a behavior expert and she can take people's money and give advice. And she'd probably be pretty amazing because she's pretty amazing, but she has no qualifications. And so anybody can call themselves a behaviorist. And I think in many cases, people feel like behavior is it's what everything that's alive does. And so we all feel it's very accessible. But I would also caution against that little knowledge being a dangerous thing, because it's very in-depth and there's a huge amount of damage to be done if we don't know what we're doing. So I think one of the things as veterinary nurses, which we're very strong on, is welfare, is client communication, is following the RCVS guidelines to understand our limitations and know when to refer. So all of that is kind of built in. And then deciding which level you're at. You know, can you train? Are you a qualified trainer? Are you an animal behavior technician, which is kind of level 5? A lot of nurses are building that into what they do in practice, or, you know, kind of starting out. And then there's the level 6, which is your clinical animal behavior level. But I think if you're going to call yourself a behaviorist, yes, you can do that, but please, I would really encourage you not to use that term unless you genuinely have that qualification, because we want owners to understand what they're getting. We want to uphold the profession, and we want veterinary nurses to be underpinning that. And I think veterinary nurses are the perfect people to become behaviorists because we're so integrated in terms of body and soul. So I think we've got a huge skill set that we can bring and integrate the whole thing. And, you know, when you're ready to start your business, go for it. Once you've got those qualifications under your belt and you know what your niche market is and where you're aiming for, and whether it's going to be part of practice or whether it's going to be something you do independently, and, you know, whether it's going to be training, whether it's going to be behavior. So figure out what you want to do first and then find a way to make it happen. And being a vet nurse will make it all the more fabulous.
That's some great advice there. So what things have you learned most from starting up your own referral service?
Oh, wow. A lot. I learn from every animal and every human I work with. I'm so grateful to have incredible clients, incredible animals to work with, amazing referring veterinary practices. So they teach me a lot. And I think every interaction that we have, we learn a lot. And I think we should be learning from our animals. You know, none of us know everything. No matter how much we know, we're never the expert. The animal is the expert, and we're always working with a human caregiver, and we're always working within that veterinary team. So there's a huge amount that I learn every single day from that. I've learned a ton about time management and plate spinning. The thing that really surprised me, I guess, is when I left Edinburgh Vet School, oncology had been my passion, and internal medicine, critical care, that had been my thing that I'd done for very, very many years at a very high level at the university vet schools. And clinical nursing was it for me. And when I moved down south for love, none of the thing that I had been doing for all this time existed anymore. But I had my passion for behavior, and I sort of knew it a little bit, and I wanted to learn more. So I thought, well, you know what? I'm just going to take it easy. I'm going to get a training qualification. It's going to be joyful. I'm going to do fun things with animals all day long, and it's going to be heaps of fun. But actually, behavior work is incredibly similar to my oncology work in that it's emotional, it's draining. Burnout is huge. There's a huge responsibility, especially when you're a CCAB, because you're clinically autonomous. You have owners' hearts in your hands. You have these pets' emotional welfare in your hands. And so that for me was a real eye-opener, because I was just like, it'll be a fun little hobby and who knows if it'll grow. And all of a sudden you have this massive responsibility. So I treasure it, to be honest. I'm honored to have that responsibility, but you know, it's hard work, and it's sometimes very draining, but it's also very joyful a lot of the time. But yeah, I've learned business skills, I've learned crisis management skills, and you know, all the stuff that you do when you work for yourself. And I've also learned to be very spoiled in that, you know, being employed is more difficult. So much learning.
Sounds like there was an awful lot you've learned, and I imagine you carry on learning as you go as well. I suppose you know
every single day. Yeah, every single day. So I think we should always be open to that learning and celebrate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Always be open to learning. Couldn't agree more. So what kind of behaviour problems have you seen since the start of the pandemic?
Really interesting. So prior to the pandemic, my caseload was pretty diverse. And there were things that you saw more commonly. gradually, as the pandemic kind of kicked in first of all, everything disappeared from all of our diaries and we were like, oh my God, our businesses are over because there's nothing we can do. And then suddenly, boom, it all, was out of control. So first of all, a massive caseload, massive. I mean, I am turning away 10, 15 clients a week at the moment, which is really, really tragic because all of those people and all of those animals need care. But the types of cases that we're seeing tons of, and this seems to go with loads and loads of my colleagues, is overstimulated, over-aroused animals who are constantly being interacted with and have no downtime. And they've never learned to rest. They've never learned to be self-sufficient because they've always had their humans with them. Their humans need them because we're upset and anxious. And I love your topic for tonight. How are you feeling on a behavior special? That's ideal. Our owners are pretty stressed and they're chronically stressed. They are over-relying on their pets, in many cases, putting a lot of pressure on their pets. And so we have pets who they don't get to rest. They don't get downtime. They are constantly being like, let's play, let's do stuff, let's go for a walk. Cats have been moved out of their quiet spaces for home offices. And again, so we're seeing aggression, we're seeing possession aggression, we're seeing food aggression, we're seeing handling aggression, we're seeing this just huge high levels of emotional arousal, a lot of frustration, a lot of anxiety, which is really, really sad. And that's in addition to all of the puppies who did not get appropriately socialized or habituated. And I think we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg right now. So I think it's going to affect us for quite some time to come, and it may potentially affect generations of pets as we move forward. Who knows? Time will tell, I guess.
Gosh, yes, time will tell. Now, Linda, I wish we had more time. I really do, because you've got so much wonderful stuff to share with us. But I'm afraid we're going to have to wrap up the interview.
That's not a problem. I could passion talk all night, so please shut me up.
But I'm sure you'd be more than happy for people to contact you if they had any questions.
Absolutely. And please reach out. My email address, I believe you guys have chucked it in the chat, and my Facebook page is there as well. Please join me. You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Linda. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much for having me. Sorry.
No, don't apologise at all. It's wonderful that you've got so much to say. So thank you, Linda. We're going to jump into our panel discussion with Linda, Zoe and Elle. So hello, guys. I'm going to come to you first, Zoe.
Hi there.
Okay. Are there resources to point lockdown puppy owners to for dogs already showing signs of behavioural problems from poor socialisation?
Poor socialisation does lead to nervousness, potentially aggression, separation anxiety. As a profession, I maybe speak of many out there that are obviously seeing more dogs that are nervous. I know when I work in first opinion and referral, there's often the mark on the cage to show care, and it's often these 9, 10, 11-month-old dogs that are obviously showing this type of behaviour. We have to be a voice for the dogs. Of their care, they're aggressive, and I think we have to try and help these dogs and their owners. There is some links that hopefully are on there of where we can direct owners to. The Dogs Trust have a really nice resource where you can send owners to that really talks about, the socialisation aspect, the separation aspect. And then obviously trying to find a trainer, a behaviourist, that obviously is qualified to help with the problems. But I don't think it's just a case of seeing the dog or the puppies and they're that way and then saying goodbye to them again. I think we need to be stepping in and trying to, help, because it's only going to potentially, get to the adolescent stage. And then, the owners would pre-pandemic.
Oh, I think Zoe might have cut off.
We've lost Zoe.
Shall we move on to...
Yeah, we'll move on. I'm sure we can...
And then if Zoe wants to answer anything in the chat as well, she can do. So the next question is for Ellie. So how do you navigate professional boundaries between trainers and veterinary professionals?
Hi there. I think Rami's decided to join us as well today. I'm so sorry. He's the worst behaved puppy. He's showing me up.
Right on cue.
I know. So obviously, as a vet nurse, we follow the code of conduct, and trainers are unregulated. They don't have anything to follow. with trainers, we need to obviously work with them. What we do is we have recommended trainers that we've actually been out to see what methods they use. So I'd highly recommend that to other vet nurses and vets to do in their practices. Make sure you know who you're obviously referring them to, and make sure that they're not using debunked, outdated theories. And there seems to be a lot of them at the moment, especially on social media. We see them all over TikTok at the moment. So yeah, the main thing is I would say is to make sure you're obviously checking out who you're, potentially referring to.
Yeah, so like building up a relationship with the practice and the...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we've got a few that we, refer to, and I think it's really important that you're referring to the right ones.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Okay, Linda, I'm coming over to you.
Yeah.
Do you think medication is used enough in practice?
I think medication is underused in general for behaviour issues. I think we're scared of it a lot of the time because, again, we don't get a lot of behavioural education as either vets or nurses. And so it's not something that's familiar. And I think in many cases, whether we're dealing with clinical behaviour cases or whether it's patients in front of us in the clinic, I think medication can be an incredibly important part of the holistic care of that patient. And when I say holistic, I'm not talking like raw feeding and juju. I mean, looking after the entire patient. I think we should definitely be considering that a patient with a behaviour problem or a patient who is very, very emotionally aroused has changes in their brain chemicals. That's physical. And that's something that, yes, we can change with environment, how we interact, handling, but also medication can be incredibly useful. So, for example, in practice, most of the practices that I work with now, their default, their gold standard, and we also, this is considered the gold standard at fear-free, is any patient coming in for any procedure has pre-visit anxiolytics unless proven otherwise, because we can take it as pretty much all patients are going to be anxious to some level. And if a patient is anxious, then potentially they might shut down, like the patients we mentioned earlier. That's not going to do anybody any harm, but they're not having a good experience. But the ones which become dangerous are anxious, but they can't get away. So they're also frustrated, and frustration increases the vigor of behavior and causes dangerous behavior. So we don't want to use medication to sedate and restrain. People talk about chemical restraint. That to me is no, restraint is not really what we want to be thinking about. We want to be treating the underlying emotional situation, which is anxiety. And then we have a patient who doesn't have a problem, so isn't likely to get frustrated and dangerous, or isn't likely to shut down and be really unhappy. Same in clinical behavior cases. Yeah, I think we should use it judiciously and appropriately. And it often makes things a lot safer. It means we use less anesthetic. It means patients are less stressed if they're going for anesthesia, so their risk is lower. Yeah, all day I can talk about this.
Thank you, Linda.
And our next question is to Zoe. So that is, what is the best way to deal with an aggressive patient without causing injury to ourselves?
Okay, so I think, like Linda has said, the emotion behind the behaviour is obviously key. Like with us, when we're happy, I think we do expect a lot of them sometimes when they're brought into the environment when they're anxious, and we expect them to behave and we expect them to, be obliging to us. I think patience is so important. And I think that obviously, as we all know, we're quite a rush culture in the veterinary profession. Understanding the behaviour, learning about the body language, interpreting the ladder of emotions and acting out accordingly. And I think calm, slow and steady. I think a lot of nurses will know that if you are calm and slow about your approach, and the restraining methods are kinder, and that everyone should be adopting these types of behaviours, and then they'll really see the difference.
Perfect. Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Right, Elle, I'm coming over to you. How can you best approach clients with old-fashioned ideas or reinforcement, such as punishment or dominance, or following unsolicited advice found online?
I think we get this a lot in practice. I don't know about any other vet nurses, but we get this huge amount. I don't know whether it's just in the southeast where I am, but I think education is the most important. I think if you go in there sort of all guns blazing or telling them that they're wrong, you're going to have them on the defense straight away. So I think education is the most important. I think the more we shout about the dominance theory has been debunked now, and these outdated methods just simply don't work in most cases, or they might work in the short term, but in the longer term, you're probably going to find you're going to have an even more severe behavioural issue. I'd also say that I don't think most clients, in some cases, I think most clients don't even realise. I think it's a little bit of ignorance as well. And, I don't think necessarily they know they're being cruel in some cases. I definitely think with the pandemic, especially down at the south where I am, we've seen a huge rise in prong collars. I haven't seen prong collars for ages. And in the last month, I've seen 3. So I think education, if we can just open up that conversation with them in a nice way, rather than, jumping down their throats, that's the best way.
Wonderful. Thanks, Elle.
The next question is to Linda. So that is, why are behaviour qualifications not better regulated?
Oh, I don't know. Why aren't they?
Can of worms.
It's getting there. So currently the ABTC, which is the Animal Behaviour and Training Council, and definitely the place I think we would all recommend that everybody goes to look for their trainer or their behaviourist, because that they are appropriately qualified and regulated by a professional body, and then under the umbrella of ABTC, and hopefully soon to be under the umbrella of the RCBS. That's the place to go to. And they're really trying very, very hard to create a regulated profession with lots of structure. And then those who choose not to take part in that, for whatever there may be good reasons for that, it doesn't mean that they're not appropriately qualified, but it certainly will help weed out those Wild West trainers and behaviorists that Elle was mentioning, and there's a rise in it because of the massive rise in pet population, the massive rise in behavior problems. It's a cash cow. And so people are just springing up left, right, and center with their made up letters after their names. So the ABTC are very much doing their best. As I say, there are other organizations, and my preference would be for everybody to pull together in the one organization rather than everybody trying to do the same thing separately. To me, that makes no sense. It's like, oh my God, we're not going into Afghanistan, but it's like everybody's sponsoring this, that, and everyone pull together, get out. So it's the same deal, right? I think that's why I think there's a lot of factions, and that's problematic. Whereas actually we should all be pulling in the same direction and trying for something standardized, I think would be really, really useful. And it's coming, it's happening. And hopefully it will mean the Wild West guys are out in the cold.
Awesome. Thank you. Cool. Over to you, Rachel.
Okay, thanks, Jack. So over to you, Zoe. Any ideas on how to stop on-lead lunging?
Okay, so as you probably know with my campaign, it's something that I'm quite passionate about. Obviously, it's all about positive reinforcement and making it into a situation that's changing their mindset. Basically, it's trying to avoid that confrontation. And like with anything, the more you do something, the better you're going to become. So if the dog's repetitively lunging, it's probably just going to continue to do it. You have to have a treat that's better than any treat that there is, which is about finding what they like more than anything. And again, it's building up the confidence. Don't expect too much. Again, I think we expect them to be able to fit in 2 weeks. But I mean, I know from my personal own dog, it took a good probably 18 months of repetition and getting him. And now he will look at another dog and look to me for the reward rather than look to the other dog to do the lunge. And it's a really difficult thing. And I think owners need to be aware that it is, but it can be done. And I've proved that with my own dog. But again, it's the emotions behind the lunging and the body language that we're seeing and having that professional help, which is key, I think.
Okay, thank you, Zoe. I think we've got time for a couple more. So over to you, Jack.
Yeah, so the next one is for Ellie. So it's quite a poignant one at the moment, I think. So it's quite hard for owners to spot the warning signs of behaviour problems in their pets, as they're often so subtle. Not for us on TikTok videos, though. As vet nurses, how can we help them spot the signs before it becomes a real problem?
So I would definitely recommend a book, well, specifically for dog behavior, would be a book it's Lily Chan's book, and it's called Doggy Language. Sorry, my puppy is moving my laptop. Sorry, he's so naughty. Also, one thing that I really, really recommend is opening up the conversation with clients at every single visit. We do at our practice, we have a really short, simple behaviour questionnaire. Even if you don't know anything about behaviour, the questions are self-explanatory. So we have one for cats, one for dogs. I think there's about 10 questions on there. And it opens up that conversation for them to then spot those subtle signs before it becomes a bigger problem. We do that at every single visit that they come into. So especially the older dogs as well coming in, you can maybe spot those early signs of cognitive dysfunction. So we scan those, pop them straight on the file. So if anyone's interested and they want to have a look at them, I have 2 templates that I can send to people if they're interested in doing that in their practices. But it also opens up that conversation that a client might think, oh, is that a silly question, or is that normal? It opens up that conversation with them. So yeah, I definitely recommend those because we can see how that behaviour's changed over time.
Awesome. That's brilliant. Thank you. Really helpful.
Thank you. Right, we're going to have to look at wrapping up the panel discussion, but I wanted to do a quick fire question to all of you just before we finish. And it's going to be your top tip for anyone looking to branch out into behaviour. And we'll start with you, Linda.
Gosh, top tip. I would say, yeah, again, as we mentioned earlier, work out what it is you're interested in. What do you want to do? And then go find that. So get your CPD in and then start gradually building that side of things. And again, it depends what you want to do. Do you want to make it part of what you do, or do you want to make it a career? And then follow that path. But, learn from your learners and learn from every dog you do. And I think just to really reiterate what Elle has just said, talk about behavior all day long. Be a bore. Ask questions about it, talk to clients about it, talk to your colleagues about it, get into it. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. And Elle?
Oh God. Put me on the spot. So I would say, yeah, like Linda said, find out what your niche is, what you really enjoy, and find people who are also interested in behaviour, like Linda. She's like fangirling here. Linda is my inspiration. She knows this because we used to email a lot. And yeah, just make sure, obviously, like Linda said before, if you go on the APBC website, they've got their courses. So if you're looking to do it as a career and you want to be accredited, then you can look on there, and they've got all the accredited courses on there too, instead of going around the houses and maybe doing a course that's not accredited. So yeah, go on their website. It's fantastic.
Brilliant. And very quickly, Zoe.
I would say definitely you're trying to make sure you search like which pathway you want to go to. And I think just give yourself time to when you're doing the courses, because I know we have a busy job as in the vet world, and I think you have to be realistic. As I know from personal experience, you've got to be, you've got to be good to yourself and, take the time, I think.
Okay. Thank you very much, Zoe. And thank you, everyone. What a wonderful panel discussion that was. So much to cover. And again, I wish we could be here for longer. So all that remains is to say thank you to everyone. So I want to say thank you to our panel guests for joining us this evening. Linda, Zoe, Elle, thank you so much. Wish we could have spoken to you all for longer because it was just wonderful. Thank you to Jack for stepping in as co-host for me. You've done a wonderful job. So grateful to you. And thank you to Laura for jumping in, doing the fitness yoga session for us. I'm sure everyone had a great time there. Thank you so much. We also have our tech wizards in the background, Katie and Ebony, always doing a grand job helping us out as well. And last but not least, you guys as well. Happy Hour is all about you, and you really do make it. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. Don't forget to register for our next event. It's 30th of September, and we are going to be discussing brachycephalic breed health, and that's 30th of September.
Fab. And then just get in the chat, like, what was your main take home from today? It's always really nice to hear what people are taking home. So just pop, like, maybe what's the one thing you're going to research or do or share or think about. It's always good to hear that as well.
Yeah, we love to hear from you. And please as well, always feel free to email me at happyhour@bbd.co.uk. I love hearing your thoughts, suggestions, what you like to see. Always open to any suggestions.
Brilliant. We've got to find my niche within behaviour, to bring up behaviour more often in practice. I definitely want to follow my interest in behaviour when I have time to give it my all. Another take home was behaviour questionnaires for patients, to build a good relationship with local approved behavioural professionals. And it's lovely to hear that you always feel so supported and get so many useful tips on these happy hour. To take on some CPD or maybe even a course on behaviour. This is wonderful. That a good behaviourist makes such a difference to welfare. Couldn't agree more. And people would love the behavioural questionnaire template as well as all the links. So Rachel, perhaps in the thank you email, they can be inserted in, because we did check a few times, but I know they were hard to collect probably as we were talking.
No, we can arrange for those to all be sent out for everyone.
Fantastic. So we'll see you all on the 30th.
Enjoy the rest of your evening, guys. Thank you so much.